None of the content on this or any episode of the Kratom Science podcast, Kratom Science Journal Club, or on any page of KratomScience.com is intended, nor should it be considered, medical claims or medical advice. This is the Kratom Science podcast. I'm your host, Brian Gallagher, blog and social media writer for KratomScience.com, your source for all things Kratom. Kratom news for October 2022. We do these about the second week in the month, but they're all brand new since last time, and I'm joined by Kailee today once again.
Hello.
All right.
Yeah, so the first article that we have here for you guys is from the Associated Press. It's titled "Biden Pardons Thousands for Simple Possession of Marijuana." It was published October 6, 2022. President Joe Biden is pardoning thousands of Americans convicted of simple possession of marijuana under federal law as his administration takes a dramatic step toward decriminalizing the drug and addressing charging practices that disproportionately impact people of color. Biden's move also covers thousands convicted of the crime in the District of Columbia. He is also calling on governors to issue similar pardons for those convicted of state marijuana offenses, which reflect the vast majority of marijuana possession cases.
Yeah, so I read elsewhere, I don't think it was this article, that it affects about 6,500 people, and these are just federal simple possession charges. Most people who get arrested are charged with state, and I'm wondering, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm wondering if it's like mostly people caught on planes with a bag of weed on them.
Yeah, actually, the first pass through when I read through this, actually somehow completely missed the section that says charging practices that disproportionately impact people of color. And I mentioned how people just get locked up really for no reason. And they say it's because they found, stuff on them.
Yeah.
And it's just because of how the system is.
Yeah. It mentioned that addressing the charging practices that disproportionately affect people of color. And I put another article up about the DEA admits to racial, ethnic, and class prejudice led to drug criminalization in the agency's own founding, which is totally true. And I think I've talked about it in other episodes about Harry Anslinger, and that was a marijuana moment. I'll put the link into that, but I kind of wanted to just group them together because they're related on just how the government is becoming more and more sane about these drug issues and how it really was a racial and political thing, and it wasn't. Drug laws were never really about protecting anybody from, especially with marijuana, it's the most stark kind of example because it's really less dangerous than alcohol in pound for pound. And also, another thing the article brought up, the one about the Biden pardons, and a lot of people bring it up to criticize Biden, and I think it's a criticism I agree with, because in 1994, he did vote on the crime law, which led to massive crackdowns of people, and I think it was a Clinton law too. I mean, back then there was just you had to be anti-drugs, either party you're in. There's nobody that ran on marijuana legalization other than probably like maybe some local guys in California or something. That was when Clinton said he didn't inhale. That was 92. I tried it, but I didn't inhale. That was like a big progressive thing for a presidential candidate to even say, even though it was kind of a bullshit line. But then he went on to pass these harsh penalties for drug possession and whatnot to kind of ramp things up as much as they had since 1972 when Nixon started the drug war.
Yeah. And I definitely agree there. Like, it does make sense to bring something like that up. But I think a major thing that a lot of people do not consider, and I'm not saying this is the case here because it is very possible, he's just doing this because he realizes how much the times have changed and how a large majority of America really wants this move to be taken. I think it's important to note that people can change their minds on things.
Yeah.
Like, it's very possible to do that, because I'm from a very small town in southern West Virginia, and a lot of people are so stubborn because they say, that's just how I was raised. as if they have no free will to change their minds. And so
yeah, definitely. And just, I mean, the DEA admitting, I mean, it was the DEA museum officials, so they're probably essentially librarians, but I think everybody in the DEA might have some kind of law enforcement background. But they're the ones talking about, yeah, this was racially motivated. And then it mentions also the National Institute on Drug Abuse director, Nora Volkow, said last year that research has firmly demonstrated that drug decriminalization has disproportionately impacted communities of color. And she even mentioned, I think, criminalization is leading a big factor in the public health negative outcomes that happen, because you're not more prone to sobering up when you go in prison or spend time in prison, because it's just a big stressor, and you're not in a position, even after you come out, to have healthy mental health habits, to say the least. Next one is from Michigan Health Watch, bridgemi.com, September 28th, by Robin Erb. It's a funny name to be writing about drugs. Michigan may regulate the sale of kratom, an herbal mix linked to overdoses. Okay. Linked to overdoses, all right. Whether it's harmful or helpful, addictive or medicinal, Michigan soon may regulate the herbal supplement kratom, making it illegal for minors and requiring licenses and product testing for anyone wishing to sell it. A Michigan bill sponsored by State Rep Lori Stone and several other Democrats and a Republican swings the spotlight on a controversial herbal extract. Stone's bill would create the Kratom Consumer Protection and Regulatory Act, what the rep calls a common sense regulatory approach similar to Michigan's marijuana regulation. It would require specific labeling on kratom packaging, limit the herb to adult use because we don't want our use enticed by one more thing. Despite concerns about its safety, Stone said kratom is not problematic for everyone. Some of the issues around it are knowing what you're taking. Yeah, I'm probably pretty much 100% of the issues are in terms of everything from adulteration to contamination, everything. The bill, which would be effective January 1st if passed, would require license to sell, distribute, or manufacture kratom, require testing of raw materials using kratom products, require label warnings for kratom products, including statement saying unapproved dietary ingredient, ingesting it may be dangerous, the product should be kept out of reach of children, people breastfeeding or pregnant should not use kratom, and it would cover online sales too, which is interesting. I wonder if it's just online from Michigan companies or out of state. Melody Wolf and Drew Turner have both been, they're both in Michigan now, and they're both pretty strong activists. She's always on sharing stuff, and I'm sure they've heard from her here. And it seems like the law, it's a little different of a title. It's usually just called Kratom Consumer Protection Act, but they added "and regulatory." And I haven't read the bill yet, but they require a license and they require testing. Most of the Consumer Protection Acts have the label warnings and the age restriction, but it says requiring a license and requiring testing. That sounds like it may be, along with the fact that the law is named slightly different, it emphasizes regulatory, that it might kind of demonstrate that I think maybe the local legislators have had more of a hand in drafting the bill. A lot of the times I think just the lobbyists will draft a bill because it actually, I mean, it's functional because it saves regulators time, but you'd think our legislators would be writing the bills, and a lot of times that's not the case. And in these cases, it's better because it's leading to a better end of regulating kratom, but in a lot of cases, it's the lobbyists just take over for any old interest that they want to and write the bills and hand them over. But yeah, this seems good. I want to read the bill further and see what kind of even if they're allocating enforcement money for this, but it seems pretty strong.
I really, really like this quote. It's not problematic for everyone. Some of the issues around it are not knowing what you're taking, because it shows that they at least have a little bit of an idea of what they're talking about. They're not just talking out of their asses. They know what's going on.
Definitely. It seems like this Lori Stone is informed about that. It says whether it's harmful or helpful or addictive or medicinal. I mean, OxyContin is helpful, but it's also, people can also get addicted to it. So addictive and medicinal aren't necessarily diametrically opposed. A lot of stuff is very helpful to most, and even all the opiates are helpful to most people who take them. Yeah. As in, if you, when I had my wisdom teeth out, I took them and then I was done with them, and that's how most people experience opiates, and it helps that they're from a doctor, and that requires a lot of regulation like this. Next one's out of Wales.
Pembroke man in court for psychoactive drug seizure. Christopher Sherwood of Commons Road, Pembroke, was charged with importing mitragynine, also known as Kratom, at Haverfordwest Magistrates Court on September 27th. A parcel was intercepted by Border Force Agency in Coventry, sent from the Netherlands to Pembrokeshire, and police attended Sherwood's address. When they asked if Sherwood had sent for any illegal substances, he replied, "Do you mean the Kratom?" Sherwood was then arrested, and while being arrested said, "This is ridiculous. I have bought Kratom in the past." Packs of the drug were found in Sherwood's property, and 500 grams was intercepted at a cost of about £100. In mitigation, defense solicitor David Wheel described his client as someone who keeps himself to himself and uses the drug to self-medicate. Mr. Wheel also emphasized it was not illegal to possess the drug, only illegal to import it. Sherwood, 53, was given a conditional discharge order of 6 months, almost said 56, meaning he was not punished for the offense, but if he commits a crime in the next 6 months, he will be. Sherwood was also made to pay a £22 surcharge and £85 cost to be paid back at a rate of £24 a month. The confiscated drugs were placed under a destruction order.
Yeah, I thought there's a funny sentences in here. Described his client as someone who keeps himself to himself and uses the drug to self-medicate. Keeps
it
himself
sounds very
to
British,
himself.
I will say.
Yeah.
Like, just European, I guess.
Or Welsh, since we're in Wales here. But, I thought it was funny how surprised he was that it was legal. He's like, "What? You mean the Kratom?"
Well, he said he'd gotten it before.
Yeah. The laws over there are weird because I kind of thought it was totally illegal in the UK, and then somebody on Twitter corrected me, and I didn't argue with her because she was from the UK, but I was like, isn't she wrong? But this is it. It's legal to possess there, so if it accidentally falls from the sky, you're fine, but it's illegal to import. So it's basically kind of like a little more than decriminalized. Yeah, that was funny that he was surprised. And he's not going to prison for it or anything. But he has to not commit a crime in the next 6 months. And that's pretty strange. We have stuff on the UK, and there's certain laws like in Europe, if you're a European Union country, which I guess the UK isn't now because of Brexit, you can actually ship to a country where it's illegal, but it would be legal for you to receive the package if you're in the EU, even if they have local laws. It's kind of like one of those crazy, it's kind of like federal and state law about weed or Kratom or anything like that.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. You'd think he'd at least have some idea that it was at least complicated. You'd think he'd at least know it was complicated.
Yeah, well, go to our site, kratomscience.eu, if you're in any country and you're not sure. See kratomscience.eu if you have any questions about what's going on in Europe. We had a lot of European writers write about who know a lot more about how the EU works than us write about it. But, since March 2016, it's been officially illegal there, I guess, to import, but since their drug laws are a little more lax, it's legal to possess. So if you can accidentally get some, I guess you're okay.
Yeah, just happen to stumble upon some on the side of the street. You can have that, but that's about it.
On to Thailand, and I think we've done a Thailand article pretty much every episode here, which is good because it's developing there. And this is from October 3rd, 2022, from The Nation. Government lab tasks with monitoring quality of Thai kratom products. The Thailand Agriculture Ministry has decided to get kratom products checked at the government-owned Central Lab Thai before they are shipped out. An advisor to the Agriculture Minister said a stamp of approval from the Central Lab would add value to exported kratom products and ensure importers of the quality. He added that the Agriculture Ministry is helping farmers grow kratom so it can be turned into herbal products for export. Agricultural Ministry has assigned the Central Lab to check the quality and amount of extract used in the products. He added the lab has the precision tools required for the job, and that importers have recently visited the lab to observe the process. They might have they're called mass spectrometers, so they can analyze the ministry will soon launch a system of random checks so kratom products can get a certificate of analysis. The lab could check the level of mitragynine and 7-hydroxy in leaves before the substances are extracted for use in medical products or in food or drink. At present, only Indonesia and Malaysia have been exporting kratom to the Middle East, but now that herb has been decriminalized here, Thai exporters can also enter the market. I'm wondering if it goes through the Middle East before it gets here. I don't think so. I don't know. It definitely comes over on like those big cargo ships. Yeah. And it kind of like costs so much to send one of those. So like the big companies will buy it, and then all the small companies will buy it off of whoever imported it, slap their own label on it. So essentially every shipment's like the same shit. But this is good though. I think it's already beyond what Indonesia's doing because, you know, Indonesia, there's a problem with lead and all that. But I think they're getting a lot more regulations there. But I'm hoping that Thailand will have a cleaner product. But I was just talking to Drew Turner about this, and he mentioned that, I mean, he lived in the Philippines, and he's been in Southeast Asia, so he was telling me that Thailand has kind of a lead problem in their environment too, just like Indonesia, which is maybe one of the reasons that lead is in Indonesian kratom, because they have so much lead in that one. It's from a very small region called West Kalimantan in Indonesia. But hopefully Thailand, they don't have as many of those problems, and hopefully they can test for lead, because along with the mitragynine and 7-hydroxy, because I think that would be almost a more important thing.
Does it just would like it would make sure it's clean, you know, for consumers? They'd be less likely to get lead poisoning. That'd be great. I'm sure everyone would feel much better about that. Yeah.
I hope what they're doing is they're kind of seeing the problems in Indonesia, and they're going to be like a competitor. Once I think it's going to take a while for the kratom to grow and for them to get the right product. There's probably going to be inconsistency for a couple of years, and they actually wiped out as many kratom trees as they could over there, so they have to regrow them all on farms. It's going to take quite some time. Yeah, this is the one I wrote, and it's called, is it a good idea to make a 7-hydroxy mitragynine based drug? There's a company out of Vancouver who's making a deuterated form of 7-hydroxy mitragynine, and I'll read from their press release, Nirvana Life Sciences. Deuterated drug is a small molecule medicinal product in which one or more of the hydrogen atoms contained in the drug molecule have been replaced by its heavier stable isotope deuterium. So it's actually, you can't actually extract the alkaloids and patent them because it's too close to the actual how they occur in nature, but you can add this deuterium, and that's how they patent them. Another company did that with mitragynine, and so this other company's going through clinical trials. But my concern is with the 7-hydroxy, it appears to be has just as much abuse potential as like heroin and fentanyl. It's probably not as dangerous as far as overdose, but mitragynine seems to be the one that is better because it does have pain relief, and it doesn't have as much abuse potential as the 7-hydroxy. So, you know, I did a couple quotes on Chris McCurdy about how the 7-hydroxy worked, and it's just, if you take it out, I mean, the kratom plant itself, the alkaloids kind of complement each other and all that. But if you take that 7-hydroxy out, it can be, not very good. McCurdy said, as far as I can tell, there's been no science around this product. I emailed him about it, shared in the scientific or patent literature. He basically said it'll be interesting to see how it develops as data is made available. Watched a lecture with him the other day, and he expressed some concerns about this. Because it's like my tragedy is kind of the one. It's kind of like what researchers have been waiting for that's kind of revolutionary, because it's doesn't seem to have much addictive potential, but it also relieves pain, which with all the opiates, of course, they relieve pain just fine, but they also have that problem where people get dependent and addicted on them. So I just raised that question. I did get an email from the CEO's assistant. I emailed him directly, and I got it, but we're still communicating about it, so hopefully I can talk to them about it. My just question is with them, are you worried that, with the abuse potential, is that going to happen?
And I'd definitely be interested to hear what they had to say. Like, they're straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Arguably, it would be safer than like an opiates because it has that partial opioid agonism. So that's the thing that causes less bad side effects like respiratory depression. But like I said before, is it going to, cause people to be dependent on it, try to get illegal versions of it, spend a whole bunch of money, not have a pleasant experience. I don't think if that is potential is there, I don't think it's not really progressing that much from the opiate pain relief. Mike, the Kratom guy, was handing out care packages, and I did a whole interview with him, but maybe I'll just play his TikTok video.
We are going to be going back very soon, so if you're interested in coming with us, we're going to be handing out some more wellness packs, a case of water, and free Kratom. So, I couldn't get much footage down there, and I couldn't really record because people don't really, people are in a bad way, and they don't want to be on camera. I completely understand that.
So this area just got cleared out. It was all filled on the way in. You can see all the needle caps, the blue tubes for the water from the clinic, cotton, and needles everywhere. People were just coming through scavenging for stuff. This is crazy.
People are struggling, and it's something that's probably in every major city, is these areas that have just become so bad and hit by the opioid crisis so badly. Or I should say, hit by the state's reaction to the opioid crisis. What the fuck do you think is going to happen if you have a war on drugs? It's not just drugs, it's people. It's a war on people. These are casualties of your war, and then you wonder why people don't trust police? You mean the people that are waging an open war against its own people? Those people? It's like creating extremists overseas. They weren't extremists before the U.S. government killed one of their family members that had nothing to do with terrorism. Same thing happening over here. The only way to end that is to end the use of violence and deadly force against peaceful people who haven't harmed anybody.
That was the TikTok. Yeah, and I talked to Mike about this, and I was just asking him, for, tips if anybody wanted to go out and do that. But he was talking about Mass and Cass in Boston, and it's like they also call it the methadone mile, because it's just a stretch of road, I think Massachusetts Avenue, where there are a lot of homeless services, and then there's also a lot of methadone clinics. So now, just with the rise in homelessness everywhere, it's become just a tent city kind of down there in Boston, and there's an extra amount of IV drug use and stuff down there because there were methadone clinics. It's kind of like the same with downtown Pittsburgh. There's a lot of homeless services, so you always see homeless down there, but just in the past couple of years, just the pandemic, the spike in it, and also the spike in rent has increased homelessness down there.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I see it going over I walk over the West End Bridge to go into work, and there's a place to sleep under the bridge because it's dry, but the walkway goes under, so you're always seeing, and they hardly clean that up. It seems like once every 2 years the city goes down there and cleans it up. Yeah, it's a good thing he's doing. Mike used to sell Kratom, and then he just gave it up because he just wanted to talk about it openly without worrying about talking, because he actually was addicted to heroin, and it helped him get off heroin. But if you're saying this and also selling it, he had to worry about being shut down for making medical claims, even though that was his real experience. So he's just like a full-time activist now, and I think he actually got sponsors for that.
It's definitely a good thing that, you know, he's noticing this and he's trying to make a difference. Yeah. He's using power that he has gained, you know, he's overcome a lot, and he probably has a very similar idea of what they're like. He has a good idea of kind of what these people are feeling right now, and he's wanting to make a difference instead of just sitting back and letting it happen. Yep.
He's a good dude. And his show's the Kratom Guy Show. I'll just plug his show, too. So here's my interview with Mike Overstreet, the Kratom Guy, talking about giving care packages to the homeless in Boston. He raised money for this. Cash App and Venmo links are in the description of this podcast if you want to donate to Mike's efforts. Help the homeless up in Boston. Can you just tell us about Mass and Cass, and it's called the Methadone Mile?
So it's this area that started right by Boston Medical Center and kind of went all the way down the street in Boston. They changed it to Mass and Cass because it's Mass Ave and Melnicast Boulevard intersect right there by the Mass Ave connector that goes up to 93. And it's this whole area. They used to call it Methadone Mile because on that mile of Mass Ave, it was, from what I understand, was literally separated by a mile. And it's a lot of homeless services, both state and city in Boston, and as well as methadone clinics. I think there's like 3 different methadone clinics there. So people just started conjugating. And my wife reminded me of this like 8 years ago. We lived not too far in the area. And that's when it was still on Mass Ave. Now it's kind of migrated down to Southampton, but it started with just this area where everyone would go there in the morning, and then people would kind of hang out and conjugate and trade drugs, and it turned into using drugs. And then people started pitching tents there and just started staying there. And then it seems like every couple of years they get moved, and then they go in there and call it a health hazard, which it definitely is. It's a health emergency in the city of Boston, and they basically break it all up. And then within weeks, it's set up somewhere, either in the exact same spot or like right down the street. And we went over there in the summer, and we were giving out wellness packs, and through our sponsors, both Christopher's Organic Botanicals and Your Leaf, Your Life, as part of the sponsorship, they gave us a bunch of samples, and they were just really awesome. They jumped on the chance to be able to share this with people who could definitely use it. But we went over the summer for our first time, and we're trying to get back there every month. We just went again October 1st, and it's gotten so much worse. It was probably like maybe 100, 120 people. It's probably like 3 or 4, maybe 450 people when we were just down there on October 1st.
You had a really good TikTok video, and I'll put that link up. You didn't film the people, and you blurred out their faces, which is good and respectful. What's actually in the care packages that you're giving out?
Yeah, so we're doing the community outreach. We were calling them wellness packs, but then this last time when I went down there with my buddy Nick, we went shopping at Target. We're accepting donations for the wellness packs, not for the Kratom, just so people know the Kratom's coming from our sponsor, but the wellness packs, which we changed it to care packages because Nick wanted to put candy bars in there, which, you know, it really cheered up some people's day. So yeah, in the packs we have this last one, the first aid kits, the travel side first aid kits weren't really good. So we actually purchased some bandages and alcohol swabs, travel toothbrush, toothpaste, a razor, travel shaving cream, pads for the ladies, and clean socks. And this time we had some of the fun size like Snickers and Milky Way, Twix. This is also my friend Nick White. He's been on the podcast before. We were in there, and he's like, why don't we just get something kind of like fun? And then we were walking past the toy section, and he got Hot Wheels, and he was right. That actually made a lot of people's day. That was just something kind of.
That's such a good idea. You don't even think about that. How many care packages did you put together? Do you know?
This last one was, I think it was like 18. I think we had like 16 full ones. You know, some of them, like once we got past, I think it was like 16 or 18, then not all of them had some, but you know, not everyone had all the things in it. So we probably got about like maybe 25, 26 total that we went down there with. And, you know, I got a total of close to $90 donated through my followers and listeners. And then
Great.
It probably came out to like $350, something like that, and then Nick and I put the rest in of our own money.
I guess I'm looking for like tips, and if somebody wants to do this in their hometown, because I noticed like you take very good care. Like you made a video about it, but you didn't film anybody. Any faces that were in your video were blurred out. I think like respectfulness is like a key part in making something like that successful. So do you have any tips for like maybe how to deal with people that are, you know, going through homelessness, mental health? They mostly are probably really appreciative to get something, right?
For the most part, people that get in trouble down there, or, you know, I see like, we haven't seen any fights break out or anything like that, but you should always kind of be aware of your surroundings. I always carry Narcan on me, and you know, if somebody wants to start it in their area, that's pretty much what you have to do. You have to just start it. Tell people you want to do it, and start taking donations or take a little money out of your own pocket and get something that would be. Just think, if you were stuck on the street, what would be helpful for you to have, and clean socks and stuff like that really helps. You know, it is a testament to our sponsors as well, because the way I presented this to our sponsors was like, I can hand it out and then we'll get some extra content, and you know, it's kind of a win-win. So, but when I was down there, one is like my safety and the safety of the people in my group that I'm with. Recording. People don't want to be recorded. So I did ask a bunch of people, and I said that I don't want to record people unless they want to be recorded. So I always ask, nobody's taken me up on it, not even just audio with no video, not just even an audio recorder. So, you know, the shots I do get are from afar, and then I use a video editor and I edit out any of the faces. The reason why I do this is I very well could have ended up down there. And at one point in my life, I was homeless. I was an IV heroin addict, and I've been completely able to turn my life around. And a portion of that is, and that's my work now, is focusing on helping people get past, you know, you need to go through detox withdrawal with a doctor. It needs to be supervised. But once you get past that and you get people get stuck in recovery, and I know I was stuck in recovery for a long time, and that's my work now, is trying to help people get through that process quicker to the other side where they are recovered or in remission. So I very well could have ended up down there, and I'm just trying to get back, and a lot of my journey was through the help of Kratom and medical cannabis. I always say don't take Kratom. I don't want you to take Kratom, but it has worked very well for me and a lot of people I know. But it doesn't work for everybody. So it's really individual. So it's, you know, just going down there and talking to people. A lot of people down there, it was their first introduction of Kratom. They had no idea what it was. Yeah. I am going to start bringing a printout of what I've heard would be a suggested dose. I can't suggest a dose because I'm not a doctor. I don't want to get in trouble that way. But what a typical starter dose would be, or starter amount would be, and kind of a few key facts of it. But the people I was able to talk to down there, they were very, very interested. And a lot of them said that they have been trying to get off whatever they've been using. A lot of fentanyl and heroin. Meth is really big now in Boston, in that area, along with gabapentin, which they stack on top of the fentanyl. But the thing that surprised me is I was stuck on Suboxone for over 8 years. Yeah. And a lot of people I talked to over this past weekend, when we just went there on Saturday, they were very interested in Kratom because I told them how I utilized it to help me get off of Suboxone. And so many of them were like, they would rather stay on fentanyl buying it off the street, not knowing where it comes from at all, and not knowing the potency that could absolutely kill them if they got a bad batch or a hot batch. They would rather do that than get on Suboxone.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are super interested in learning about Kratom, and a few of them told me they were going to try it. But
great.
The big thing is like, yeah, it really is great that they are, they want to try it, and I'm hoping that people can help put that in their health regimen, and they can, start that journey. But to me, if somebody just utilizes it just to not be as sick from withdrawals that day, and just get them a little bit of comfort while they're struggling, that makes it completely worth it.
That was Mike Overstreet from the Kratom Guys Show. I'll have his links in the description, including a Cash App and Venmo where you can donate to his efforts and his care packages up in Boston. Thanks again to Kailee. Kratom News is every month. The music is Risey. The song is Memories of Thailand. Please like, subscribe, share, rate, review, follow, whatever. Kratom Science Podcast is produced by me, Brian Gallagher, for KratomScience.com. Take care.